One of the really cool things that dummies are useful for is actually learning how to use your cutting angles. Now, we can apply this on the HEMA side with our Marozzo stuff or our French cane stuff, and we can certainly apply it on our Kung Fu side with the butterfly knives or, any other Kung Fu weapons. You could do this with the long pole as well. That won't make as good of a video because you just see the tip moving around. I will say this though, get yourself something that's not going to mark up the dummy too bad. Unless you have disposable arms, I would not recommend using steel, at least not until you feel like your aim is particularly good, because dummies are expensive to replace, even the arms are expensive to replace, and you don't want to just be doing that. So either get yourself a spare pair of arms, just replace them with dowels for the exercise, whatever. What I want you to think of is using them as guide rods. Now, I say this all the time. I don't like to think of these as arms. I like to think of them as angles and lines. And that is true for this as well. One of the big problems that we see, especially in weapons sparring, is the problem of edge alignment. People will end up, blocking something and just kind of flat whapping somebody, which, if you're doing it on purpose, that's fine. But generally speaking, when you're sword fighting, you're not just trying to spank the other guy, you're trying to cut or thrust. And thus, being tip on, having good edge alignment is important. And the cool thing is that the angles on the arms give us really, really, really good concepts of edge alignment. And so, obviously, using the knives, right? I can be in close, right? I probably don't want to be so close that I'm actually hitting the dummy for the sake of drilling. But if I come in and I'm working on my lines here, now it gives me a reasonable starting and stopping point. It gives me a place to come over and come under. It gives me horizontal lines here, horizontal lines here. I can take wide angles coming in from the outside through the center, and I can take narrow angles coming in through. And I can even, especially this is important for our Marozzo work, those fendentes, the cleaving cuts, they come down straight. And while you're not going to be able to do that getting up too close to the dummy because of the center arm, the fact is that generally speaking, you're going to be cutting from one guard into another guard, and you want to make that as seamless of a transition as possible, which even for a cleaving cut, which is mostly going to be on the arms, across the neck of a downed opponent, may or may not actually be a severing cut, but something to create a deep cleaving, impactful gash. It's just a gravity cut. And even with that, you still want to be able to come into a guard because you may need to use your weapon again in a single move. And so having that center arm there gives you a chance to have that cleaving cut come from the right-hand side or the left-hand side. And if you really wanted to, because there's enough space here versus this one, you can make it really tight down either side. And right there, see, that's why I don't want you to use steel on the dummy. So you have your diagonals, you have your horizontals, you have your leg cuts down here. Obviously, you have your head cuts up here, right? Now, it's not particularly useful for thrusting per se. It's not that you can't, it's just that it's not going to be particularly fruitful practice. I much prefer thrusting either through or like a hanging ring for accuracy's sake, or taking a soft weapon versus like say a bob that actually has anatomy on it. I think that's more fruitful for thrusting than thrusting on this, but for your cutting angles, this is actually pretty useful. And again, you can do this with your Wing Chun weapons, with your long sword. You can do it with a single hand sword or a stick. I don't have a Marozzo side sword. I do have a gem here though. And then, just a cane like you would use in the French cane practice. And the same thing applies, whatever you're doing, right? Just find your range, working your false edge cuts, right? Working your true edge cuts, descending and ascending. And you can work that in, and it starts giving you a sense of paying attention to your edge alignment, paying attention to your tight angles, working, again, tight angles, wide angles. You have all of these tools at your disposal now that you can work on, because now you can use these angles like guide rods. Very, very, very valuable practice. And let me repeat one more time, right? I don't think you should use steel on this, at least until you are very, very good. Because you don't want to chew up an expensive piece of equipment. So again, either get something disposable that you can use as your guide angles, or opt for plastic or rattan or something like that that's not going to chew it up, at least not as fast. That's all I've got for you guys, and I will talk to you guys later. Good journey. Hey, thanks for watching. Like, subscribe, share, do all the other social media stuff. You can check out our other socials, as well as take a look at some of the merchandise that we have for offer in the links below. And if you happen to be in the Phoenix metro area, stop in, come in for a class, come in just to say hi. We'd love to meet you. Until next time, good journey.